Welcome to Alignment Adventures, a podcast where we explore what it means to live a fulfilling, aligning, and present life. I'm your host, Lindsay Tanner, and I'm so dang glad you're here. Hello, my loves, and welcome back to another episode of Alignment Adventures. I'm so happy and so grateful and so joyed that you are with me here today. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who tuned into last week's episode, who sent in feedback for the 100th episode, and for anyone that's listening or reached out or sent congratulations or whatever. Even you just listening and tuning in is supporting the podcast. So I just appreciate all of you so much. Like I've said so many times on here, this is my highest alignment. This is my highest joy. And I'm just very grateful that I get to do this with all of you. And I'm coming to you from my office. I have a Starbucks that I'm sipping on, which is in a holiday cup, which I'm not really sure how I feel about that because you know how much I love Halloween, but the holiday cup is pretty cute, even though I have pumpkin in it still. So I'm still got pumpkin going as long as they have it. I've got my enlightened candle burning and it smells so good. It's the Create Intention candle, and I think the scent is pomegranate cider. So it's still got like a fall scent, almost like a holiday scent too. I feel like this scent could really carry from fall into the holidays. And if you're looking for some holiday candles, enlightened candles is the perfect spot to go get some. That would even be a really good gift for someone if you're not sure what to get them. They're a woman-owned business. They are clean candles. They are a small business. I love supporting them and they smell so dang good. So make sure you check out Enlightened Candles if you haven't already. I have the code Alignment Adventures that gives you a whole 20% off, which is a pretty solid discount. And everyone that has tried them so far has loved them. So thank you for supporting that business. Thank you for supporting the podcast. Let's get into today's topic. So as you guys know, I've just been really into astrology and especially Scorpio season, probably because I am a Scorpio and it's the time of the year that I love the most around Halloween and fall. And I'm just so intrigued on the influence that can play in our lives. And I do want to say, like, some people are into it, some people are not. You don't have to necessarily believe in something to see the benefits. We talked about this with Lisa Tahir on her episode because she founded psychoastrology, which uses astrology to kind of help understand your psyche. I'm diving into her book right now, The Chiron Effect, and it is so good. But I digress. You don't have to necessarily subscribe to everything in a modality to like see its effects. You can just be curious. And I feel like curiosity is one of the most underrated things in our awareness. Just being curious about something is so fun. It's so playful. It's so childlike. There's not that much pressure if you're just curious about something. And that's how I feel about astrology. I'm very curious. And during this time, during the Scorpio season, from my understanding, this is a really beautiful time to kind of let things that need to die in your life die. And what I mean by that is not the morbid actual death. It's like letting things go. Think about a Scorpio. That isn't an arthropod, actually. That's my science teacher coming out. But arthropods have hard outer shells and they have to molt. They have to let things go in order to grow. Like when they're growing, they have to let go of their outer shell because their outer shell will not grow with them. So scorpions do that. Crabs do that. All the different insects do that. Snakes do that to a degree. They're not arthropods, but they also do that. So there's a lot of different things in nature that let things go. Even the trees. I'm looking at this tree outside my window that doesn't necessarily follow the seasons of the rest of the world because we're in Arizona. But think about trees. They let their leaves fall. So in the spring, they can grow new leaves and have new growth. So just something to think about. We are entering the part of the year that is darker. And that is what I really want to talk about in this episode, like the dark side of things or our shadows. So if you listen to other spiritual podcasts or if you're in this space, maybe you've heard shadow work. a bunch. And again, I'm not an expert on all of this. Like, all of this is just my curiosity playing out and me sharing it with all of you, right? But maybe you've heard of shadow work before. From my understanding, that is understanding like the darker side of you. And Scorpio season is a really good time to do that because we're entering the darker part of the year. There is more night now than daytime or at least the northern hemisphere, right? The equator and the southern hemisphere, it's the opposite for them. But in the northern hemisphere, we're entering the darker part of the year. So this is just a really beautiful time to kind of harness that energy from Scorpio season to let things go. Like I said, this season can kind of represent quote unquote death, which again is not the actual death. But what parts of you, maybe it's parts of your awareness or habits you have or relationships that you need to let go of. Can you surrender to that cycle of death so it can be recycled into something new as we continue on through the seasons and throughout the year? Like, what a beautiful way to look at that. Like we said, nature does that all the time. Like, things are dying right now, or perceived as dying, or going into hibernation. So during springtime, they can be recycled into something new, and we can plant new seeds and let new things come in our life. A lot of times it's just a matter of making space and making room for things in our life. So you have to let those things go, which, by the way, I have a whole YouTube video on what I'm letting go this Scorpio season. I will link it in the show notes, but it's been so fun to just do different videos on that platform that kind of complement the videos or the podcast I have on here rather. So my YouTube channel and my podcast really kind of mirror each other. It's like the same content a little bit, but we've got yoga flows and meditations and different talk videos over there. So go check that out if you haven't. So back to Scorpio season. This is also a really good time to really step into your power and your passions. So that kind of goes back to shadow work. So let's circle back to shadow work. Embracing our shadow is what I really want to dive into. So from my understanding at first, shadow work would be like the dark parts of you, right? Like maybe your wounds or like things that need to be healed or things you don't want to acknowledge, parts of you that you're not proud of. Like, I know parts of my ego come shining out all the time, like when I get mad at someone, or maybe I say something that I regret, or whatever it may be. We all have shadow aspects of ourselves. But what about if there's also parts of us that we put in a shadow that are like our true desires and our passions and our talents? And just like a shadowy part in our house or in the attic in the basement, we've just put it there and kind of forgot about it. Maybe we were ashamed of it for whatever reason. Maybe someone told us when we were little that we shouldn't be doing that thing, or we're not good at that thing. Somewhere along the line, it felt unsafe to do this thing, but it's still a desire or a talent or an aspect of you that needs to come out. So that was just an interesting way to look at shadows. And I really have gotten this from doing research about Scorpio season. Like, this is a part of Scorpio season. Not only bringing out the parts of us that we're ashamed of, but recovering those forgotten talents, desires, and they call them soul treasures. So I really want you to think about that this week. How can you embrace the shadows? How can you shine a light on different parts of your awareness or your soul, or just in your reality, and areas that need to be acknowledged? And again, maybe those are things you've just forgotten about that you love to do. I mention this all the time, but go back to what you loved to do as a child. Sometimes we just forget. Like, I had a memory the other day of I loved watching RV videos. Like, I loved watching the Travel Channel, and they always had like RV tour videos. Isn't that interesting how that's coming back in my reality now in terms of van life and like the travels we've had and future events that we might be doing? It's just interesting how things come back around. And I really think it kind of goes along with seeing darkness in a different light. Like I said, I was watching a Gaia episode with Mitch Horowitz. Highly recommend watching anything of his on Gaia. I will put the link in the show notes for that free 7-day trial, so you could literally watch it for free if you wanted to. But just search Mitch Horowitz on there, especially his episodes on open minds with Regina Meredith. low-key trying to manifest her job. She interviews all these interesting people on the Gaia platform. Anyways, he was talking about how darkness isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like, think about it. We need darkness to see the stars. Darkness exists in the womb. Like, that's how life starts, in the dark, right? Like, there's not lightness, or they don't really have light in the womb when life is beginning. So maybe darkness isn't this bad thing that we perceive it to be. A lot of people I listen to talk about how we need this polarity. Like, our reality is based on polarity. The yin and the yang, the masculine and the feminine, the good and the bad, the dark and the light. We need both in our existence. And our existence consists of both. And I think a lot of suffering comes from resisting the darkness, or resisting those parts of us that we put in the dark. That's where a lot of our suffering comes from. So I just really encourage you this season, Scorpio season, I believe it goes to the 23rd of this month, but you can play around with that. It doesn't have to be an exact science. I think it's more of an art. Really kind of take a peek into those shadows of your life. That is a really good thing to do when you're journaling or meditating or in silence, which we're doing for November, right? If you guys are joining me for November, I talked about it in last week's episode. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, we're just prioritizing going within at least like 5 minutes a day, if not more, if not less. We're just trying to prioritize those different things that help us go within this month. So that is a really good thing to ponder when you're doing that. Like, what shadows do I need to embrace with myself? And like I said, this is not something you need to do alone. You can do any of these things with a therapist or a coach or a friend or a family member, obviously with their consent, right? Or you can even call in like your guides. I truly believe that we have a whole team of guides supporting us through this reality. And it's just a matter of like asking them for help through prayer, through meditation. It doesn't matter what you call it, but just asking for that help, and you will receive that help. And just be open and curious to the signs you do receive. Maybe you're not sure what is in your shadows, right? Like, what have you forgotten about that you love to do? That positive spin on it, right? Well, you're going to ask that, and you're going to ask your guides to help you. And maybe as you're going throughout your day, you see signs to do different things like gardening or knitting. I feel like those are the go-to hobbies. That's what's coming to me right now. But maybe you see all these different signs to go do things. Go explore that. That is the universe communicating with you. I just posted this on my Instagram, but something I've been really called to do recently is start a bullet journal. I feel like those were really popular like a few years back, so I'm really behind, obviously. But I used to be a big planner girl, but honestly, it's just been more aligning and more efficient to keep track of things on my Google Calendar because I can access that from anywhere. But I love my paper and pencil and pens. So a bullet journal is fun because you can really just put anything in there. Like, I've done a few pages already and I've written out what I want to manifest this coming year. I've written down things that I accomplished last year, which I feel like is such a good practice. How often do we list down the things that we did last year? Like, a lot of times we just do things and then we move on. But write it down and celebrate it. Celebrate it and be proud of yourself. Take a moment to just be present with that accomplishment instead of rushing on to the next thing. That is like my goal, right? To get out of that what's next mentality. And then what else did I put in there? Oh, I'm keeping track of like stats of different things, which again, I'm trying not to be obsessed about that. I have a whole episode about not being obsessed with numbers, about me taking off my Fitbit, which I'm still loving not having a Fitbit. I go on walks during the day and I'm like, I don't even know how many steps this is. It just feels so good to be out here. But I do keep track of other things in my reality, but I try not to check them obsessively because I know my success is not measured in those numbers. It's measured in how I feel. So that is something that I felt called to do, and I'm doing it and it feels so aligning. So it really is those simple nudges. And also, if you need help doing this work with tuning into your internal guidance, your intuition, remember I have those internal guidance sessions to help you tune in. And once you start doing it, you can really do it on your own, but sometimes you just need that third party to ask the questions to help you get in that deep state so you can hear that guidance. But remember, that is always there for you to help you along this journey, to help you embrace those shadows. But I really feel like this is a beautiful time of year to dive into what we need to let go of and dive into the things that we are kind of ashamed to acknowledge, and really let those be a part of our reality and our awareness. Also, from my understanding of Scorpio season, Scorpios can be very passionate about things, which I feel when I want to do something, I become like obsessive about it. So I feel like this is also a beautiful time of year to dive into those passions. What are those things that you love doing? And just keep doing that. I posted a TikTok about that the other day, which I am on TikTok, by the way, in case you did not know. I try not to spend too much time on that platform. That's one of my manifestations this year, is more reading, less social media. But I posted a TikTok saying, find the thing you love to do it and don't stop doing it. Like, that is so simple, but find the things you love and just keep doing them and see what unfolds. There's so much magic, so much beauty out there. You just have to allow it in your life. That was a quote I heard from Halloween Town, and I loved it. It was like, Marnie was asking her grandma what magic was, and she's like, magic is wanting something and then allowing yourself to have it. How beautiful is that quote? Wanting something and then allowing yourself to have it. That is the most common word I hear from my internal guidance, is allow, allow, allow. So really allow yourself to have what you want during this season of life. That is my message to you this week. So I hope this was useful for you all. I hope I'm like piquing your curiosity about astrology, and if not, that's okay too. But I hope there was something from this episode that you can take and implement it into your reality, your awareness, to help you on your alignment journey. Because remember, this is the most important work we can do, is stepping into our truth, stepping into what we came here to do, because I do believe we came here with a purpose, and it's just a matter of remembering and allowing ourselves to step into that. So I hope this was useful for you. Please share this episode with anyone that you think needs to hear this message. Please share any takeaways you have with me over on Instagram. My handle is the same as always, at Lindsay with an A, M Tanner. I'm pretty much that across all platforms if you want to find me on YouTube or TikTok or whatever. And of course, my loves, I'm sending you all of the high vibes. So much love to every single one of you. I'm so grateful for every single one of you. And of course, I will see you next week on Alignment Adventures.